good evening, and thank you for coming. And this is our, I think, sixth, maybe, workshop that we have done for those of you who were impacted by the Camp Fire. So I want to welcome you all to the workshop. This is a really, I think, a pretty special event. I'm hoping we'll get a few more people coming in, because we've assembled a group of pretty valuable experts for you tonight that will help you follow a very key piece of our advice. So how many of you is this your first time coming to a United Policyholders workshop? Okay, well, welcome. I'm going to do a very brief introduction of who I am, who we are. Let's see. Okay. So tonight's topic, we call it the scoop on scope. And the word scope has a special meaning in the context of what we're going to be talking about. But before we get into why we're calling it the scoop on scope, I'll tell you, my name is Amy Bach. I'm the co-founder of United Policyholders. I'm an attorney, and my main gig is I'm an advocate, a professional advocate for anyone who is in the insurance system as a buyer. And I'm an advocate for the buyers to get everything they paid for when something has happened and you need to use your insurance, and also an advocate for you as a disaster survivor with your insurance companies to get them to really understand how they can work with you to get you back where you need to be. And our organization is a 501c3. So I started it with somebody who had 2 decades of experience as a claim adjuster, the kind of person that all of you are working with. Together we thought, okay, so we can do 2 things. We can be a source of information, which is what we're here doing tonight, giving you information about your options, your rights, strategies that may help you get the money that you need to rebuild, replace your destroyed assets, and then also be your voice. So how many of you think that you are underinsured, that you don't have enough money to put your house back? Okay. Well, I'm glad that it's not all of you raising your hands. It's been one of our projects since we were founded in 1991, right after the Oakland-Berkeley fire, which you guys left them behind in terms of breaking records. But at that time, that was the biggest number of homes that had been destroyed in a wildfire. Now, obviously, you have that honor. But at that time, we started this program, the Roadmap to Recovery program, to give information and then to be your voice in Sacramento and in the courts and in the media. And we've been doing the same thing ever since. So 27 years of giving people information and being your voice. The reason I asked about how many of you are short on your insurance is because that has been one of the biggest challenges that people impacted by wildfires have struggled with over the years. But there are many other challenges. And one of them is when you are not on the same page with your insurance company, with your adjuster, as to how much it would cost to replace the property that you have lost. And so because of that, we have developed a lot of materials that you'll find on our website, and then some of what you're going to hear tonight, to help you be your own best advocate in getting a fair settlement. And then also, if you find that you need help, professional help, we also want to help you get to the right people that can really deliver the kind of information to you and support you in standing up for your rights with your insurance company. So I want to thank Maitreya Badami, who's a professor here at Chica. There she is. She is one of these angels that have made it possible for our very small organization to do an incredible amount of work over the years. She did not lose her home, but she knew a lot of people were hurting, and she reached out to find out if she could help, and somehow or other she got connected with us through a mutual friend, and she's been our eyes and ears here, helping us put on workshops, and then she has been attending the meetings of what are called the long-term recovery group, and that's some of the other charities that are offering different kinds of services, and they meet every other week. People who are providing mental health counseling, case managers, and that kind of thing. So if you, Maitreya is here. If you have questions afterwards about other types of services, you're welcome to ask her. And we also want to thank the Community Legal Information Center. We've got these lovely students. Thank you so much, that are here during their spring break, so extra thank you. Yay! Yes, let's hear it for the young people. And also we want to thank the rural county representatives of California. So that is an organization of your county officials, your Butte County supervisors that represent Paradise, and of course, most of your elected officials are in the same boat as you. They lost their homes. Your elected officials are supporting us in bringing you information. So those are the thank yous. And then, let's see. Okay, again, we're a not-for-profit charity. We're here to educate you, support you. We're not here to get you to hire us. You can't hire us. We don't do individual assistance. I'm a lawyer, but I can't be your lawyer. But I can certainly help you. We can certainly help you find lawyers if you need that. We're funded by donations and grants, and our work. A lot of our work gets done by volunteers. So, and a lot of them are either people like you who went through a disaster, learned a lot of lessons the hard way about insurance and the process and what it's really all about, and then they pay forward the help they got from us by being a source of help for you. How many of you stopped by our table at the local assistance center when it was over at the old Sears building? Okay, so most of the people who were sitting at our table had lost their homes in a previous wildfire, so they're more, they were more involved with us to to be there for empathy and support and some technical information. But a lot of our volunteers are professionals. So all 5 of the scope experts that are here tonight have done volunteer work for our organization, and they support our organization. And that is kind of one of the sort of unique things about us, is that we have some really smart people that will do some free work for us because they really believe in what we do, because they know that you've paid good money for protection, and now's the time when you really need that protection to come through. And because of this process being what it is, basically a business negotiation between you and your insurance company, these volunteers and our staff are here to try to level the playing field for you so you can get through this. It's with a minimum of frustration and extra challenges that you don't need on top of the challenge of having gone through this nightmare. So you can learn more about our work at our website, uphelp.org. We have 3 programs. I'm not going to go into much detail about that. We have copies of our yellow book here. If you don't have one, please pick one up. We also have our journals, and you can pick up a free copy. These are thanks to the grants that are supporting our work, that we can give these out for free. And that's a snapshot of our homepage. And you'll see we have a campfire library. It's a curated library. We're trying to put things that are relevant here for you. And just before I turn it over to my fantastic colleague, Sandy Watts, who herself had a couple of decades of experience as a claim adjuster, I want you to kind of absorb, I think, one of the most important messages that we want to deliver to you. And you probably already grasp this because you're sitting here tonight, but I have to say it again. The more you understand about your insurance benefits, your rights, and the value of your losses, the more benefits you're going to recover to rebuild your home and life, and the smoother your claim will go. So for that reason, we have 2 handouts that I want to make sure you pick up before you go. One of them is just a recap of your legal rights as a claimant in California. When you have an insurance claim, what are the rules? And don't be surprised when you find some of those rules have been broken by the adjusters that you may be working with. It happens pretty often, and it's just, that doesn't mean it's right or wrong, it's just that that is the law. So, it's there for you to use as a reference point. And if your adjuster is not abiding by the law, then you can say to them, well, I happen to know that in California, I am entitled to see my claim file or whatever it is that you're discussing. And also, if you see in this quote here, the more you understand about your benefits, well, we've already gotten through a couple workshops where we walk people through coverage A, coverage B, how do you figure out your max and how do you apply the percentages. And you can go on our website and see videos if you missed those. And tonight, we're focusing on the value of your losses, particularly your dwelling. Okay, so this is a very focused workshop tonight. It's not a general one. This workshop is intended to be general guidance only, not legal advice. If you have a specific legal question, we recommend that you consult an experienced attorney. We don't endorse or warrant the quality or services of any of our volunteers or speakers. They're here as volunteer educators. So we're not here to push you into hiring anyone, spending any money, anything like that. So before I hand the mic over, I just want to say that this whole concept of the scoop on scope is because it turns out that having a good scope of loss is one of the best ways to navigate a settlement with your insurance company on your dwelling. And Sandy's going to explain to you why that is and how that works. So Sandy Watts, who's on our staff, thank you, Sandy, and welcome.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Hi, I'm Sandy Watts. I work at UP, and I worked for State Farm for 25 years, was a claims adjuster and a team manager there for many years, so before leaving. And I was in the restoration industry for a few years, so I've kind of gone both sides of the thing, and now I'm on the other side trying to help people get their claims done. So thanks for coming. The main reason, this is like my thing. Scoop on Scope is my thing. This is the #1 way that you can really maximize your claim and get what you need out of your claim to get your house rebuilt. And the reason is that coverage A is your big ticket item. We won't go over this too much because we've probably been through, but you've got all these different buckets of coverage to pull from. So we want to make sure that you can get as much as you can from each bucket of coverage to rebuild your house. That's just a sample page. It's good to familiarize, all these declaration pages are different, so it's really good to get into yours. Does everybody feel like they know what their coverage is? Like you know what your code limits are, you know what your extended coverage is and all that? Okay, let me keep going. Keep going one more time.
Keep going.
Yep. Okay, so how many here have received something from their insurer that's supposed to give them the first assessment of the value of their home? Everybody? Please tell me everybody's gotten one. No? Some of you have got nothing yet? Okay, we should talk about that privately. They should have, the insurance company owes you, as soon as practical, as soon as they can determine a reasonable amount, they owe you the undisputed value of your home. There's a few ways that they can do this. They can get appraisal. Who's had an appraisal, like a real estate appraisal? Okay? So that is, it's very common. It's quick. It's easier. It has nothing to do with the amount you're owed on the claim. It's a way of the insurance company to get the first chunk of money into your hands. So some people call up our office and say, oh my gosh, I just got this thing in the mail. It's, hundreds of thousands of dollars, less than I was expecting, and it's hard for them to believe that it's not a disaster. But it's not a disaster, it's just the first step, and you build from there, okay? So what they should all be giving you, and I'm kind of shocked that a lot of companies aren't doing it, but after the appraisal, or as your first, they should be giving you their best estimate of how much it would cost to rebuild your home, okay? So the quality of that estimate is 100% based upon the experience and technical level of the person producing it, okay? They have the software, it's called Xactimate. It can be really good, it can be, in the wrong hands, it can be awful. So, but they should be giving you that, okay? And then we get people who say, oh my gosh, I got an 85-page thing that makes my head spin around, and it's still not enough. So that's what we're going to try to clear up. We're going to try to go from this first page and work on the steps that you need to take to get it where you need it to be. Okay, so scope is a little bit different than estimate. Scope is the actual details, the things that make up your house. So if this was your house, you'd be looking and say, okay, I have these floor tiles, I have rubber baseboard, I have so many steps, all these things. So those are the components that make up your loss. So what I tell people is don't get hung up too early on the amount of the estimate, okay? Let's focus on the scope first, and then once that's taken care of, we'll focus on the estimate. Amy? Okay? Okay, think of it as a starting point. Okay, we've done this, go ahead. Okay. So a lot of times what happens is people they get the estimate from the insurance company, they get an estimate from their contractor, and there's a big gap in between, okay? So the first thing that we want, so a lot of times the adjusters will come back. First off, you are not required to submit an Xactimate estimate to settle your claim with the insurance company. And a lot of insurers will say, well, we can't do anything with this estimate because it's not in Xactimate form. Don't accept that. There's nothing in the policy that says that your contractor has to give you an Xactimate bid. That being said, having one is helpful because it's easy to compare. It's the way that things are put together, it's easy to compare. But there's other ways to do that, and we'll show you how. So before you worry about the gap between the insurance company figure and your contractor's figure, we have to do one thing, and we have to make sure that the two prices are for the same thing, okay? And it's super, super important, okay? Yes. Okay, yes, compare apples to apples. So in order to compare the two bids, you need to make sure that they're both estimating the same thing. So the first thing, and I'll start with the contractor first, you want to make sure, even if you have no inkling at all to rebuild your house. You're going to move, you're going to do whatever. You have to have an estimate for what it would cost to rebuild the house you lost, okay? You can move, you can build something different, you can do a lot of different things, but you have to have an estimate for what you lost. So sometimes I hear people say, well, I'm not going to put that house back that way. It had, the bedrooms were too small and, this and that. They owe you for what you lost, plus your code upgrades up to your policy limit. So the only way to kind of negotiate with them is to get an estimate for what you lost. Okay, so next please. Okay, so start with the scope. This is one of the things I suggest people do, that huge long estimate that has all the numbers. If you can do it, if your adjuster's helpful, call them up on the phone and say, reprint my estimate as a scope instead of an estimate. And all it is one button. It's a one button situation where they can reprint your estimate without any of the prices. So it just has the items and the quantity of items. So, so many square feet of carpet or hardwood floor or drywall or whatever. So get them to do that. Hopefully they'll do that. Don't worry about the numbers, and then start on the details. Okay, so what you want to do, and this is really tedious work, but what you want to do is start in one room and go through and take out a red pen and correct their scope, okay? Look at the sizes of the rooms that they put on. Look at the, one of the things I see all the time, if any of you had high ceilings in your house, Exactimate defaults to 8 feet, and if they have to, if you had pitch ceilings, peak ceilings, or higher ceilings, they have to go in and manually change it for each room. So a lot of times people, they forget that, okay? So you need to go and look at the size of your rooms, look at, what kind of, how big were your windows, what kind, and really get detailed. And I tell people, start just in one room. Do one room at a time because it's pretty overwhelming. And start at the floor and think about everything in the room. How many outlets did you have? Where were the light switches? How many were there? And be very, very detailed. One of the things that's kind of hard is if your adjuster wasn't really systematic in the way that they estimate, I always say that you should either start at the floor and work up or start at the ceiling and work down because it's easy, it's logical. I always start at the floor. And then you can think floor covering, baseboard, walls, all those things. So sometimes you'll see, and it's also, I think, a measure of how good of estimators they are, if they jump around, if they have like floor, and then a light fixture, and then a door, and then, some walls, it's harder to follow their train. So try to be systematic when you go through it, okay? Go ahead. These are some things that you can use to help yourself get through it. You can find, if you have plans, I know a lot of people lost their plans, photos, Google Earth, different, Zillow. A lot of people, if your house was on the market recently, there's a lot of pictures in Zillow. My house, it turns out, is in Zillow. It's before I remodeled it, but it's still there. So these are all things you can look. Ask your friends. If you had people over that were came to a birthday party and snapped pictures, sometimes you can look behind the kids and see, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So those are good ways to do it.
Reddit's a good one too.
What is?
Reddit,
yes. Same thing as Zillow, yeah. So describe your dwelling in detail. I think you're going to have to click through this one.
This is one of the...
Yeah, okay. And this one goes from the ceiling down, that's fine. So just if you had any sort of decorative molding, if you had, what kind of, some ceilings have texture on them, some are smooth. You got to think about all of this stuff. Rounded corners, countertops, built-ins. Let me just say something about countertops and cabinets. Cabinets have a huge range of prices. You can go even something that kind of looks similar. There's a huge range of prices, so try to be really specific. And if you have to, go out and look for something that looks like yours because the range is crazy. And so you want to make sure, and an Exactimate, they can push a button that says standard, deluxe, or whatever, but it still doesn't really nail down necessarily where it is. Doors, trims, baseboards, drywall texture, paint, all of these things. And so try to remember, we're also, Amy mentioned, we're posting this on the website, so you can go in and we'll have a PDF of this, you can do this. But these are things that you really need to focus on. Appliances, try to find your appliances, because again, that's just a standard, button. Okay, so this is an example. This is a scope printed out without the prices. Okay, so this is what a scope of loss looks like. So you've got and it's hard to see, and it's really hard to see even when they send it to you, the dimensions of the room sometimes are tough, but you can kind of see them there, so you can look at your square footage, and then these are the things that are in there. And this one starts from the bottom, because I wrote it, and that's what it looks like. That's what you want to do. So then that gives you some room in the middle, and just take your pen and just mark it up, okay? So next one. Oh look, mark it up. 12-foot ceilings, just put in the amount of the base. This is kind of messy the way I did it, but so that's the idea, is just take it and mark it up. Go ahead. And then when it comes back, price. So one of the things that I find is if somebody takes and does a really good job of getting these details marked down, you take your marked up thing, you send it back to your adjuster, say, fix it and send it back to me. You might have to do it more than once. It's tedious. Your gap's going to close quite a bit already there because some of the things are going to be taken care of by the details that you add in, okay? So then, and make sure, like, see how that one says the Cardine vinyl flooring? If you had something that was like that was like a brand name, then make sure that you tell them so that they can go like look that up because different types of flooring are different. Like you have vinyl flooring and you have everything from really cheap vinyl flooring to super, super expensive vinyl flooring, and it's just, they need to know. And they won't probably take a ton of time. Okay, so this is a trade summary. This should be at the end of any exactment estimate that you receive from your adjuster, okay? So this is super helpful because if you get this from your adjuster, I like contractors bidding blind just so that you can, get their actual opinion on how much it is. So I would like move the amounts, cover it up, give them a list of those are trades, okay? So if you see those, it's basically a trade summary. So appliances, cabinetry, all these different areas, give a blank one to your contractor and say, when you give me a bid, can you give it back to me, divided up into these areas? Because then the adjuster can just look and see where the differences are. So that if there's if you're a little bit high in one area and a little bit low in another, it kind of works out. But if there's one area where you're really far apart, then that's the only area you have to focus on at that time to try to close the gap on that. So it makes it a lot easier. It makes it a lot, you can kind of identify where your gaps in amounts are. Okay. So do you guys have any quick questions on this?
Yeah, it's beginning to sound like we need to know as much about the terminologies and all that as the contractors themselves and the board of the insurance company, because, what if somebody doesn't know what a culvert ceiling is or what type of baseboard they have?
Yeah, and you can ask for help with that. I mean, obviously our position is the more you know, the better off you're going to be in the end. But a lot of times you can, if you don't know, you can ask somebody. You can say, okay, hopefully you should be able to ask your adjuster. You should be able to call up and say, hey, look, I had this, ceiling and it was coved like this, and then it had a little thing like this, and and they should be able to say that, but they might not.
We need to force the issue as far as them preparing the scope of losses. My adjuster hasn't made any kind of offer at all.
Yeah, I think that you do. They have a duty to investigate the claim and to adjust the claim, and it's interesting because, and we'll get to questions in a little bit. I just wanted to, and I'll get one here, but they should be doing it. And I had an adjuster tell me the other day, well, it's not my job to figure out, what and I'm like, back up the bus here. That actually is your job. So that is something you should push. Just really quick one question, and then we'll keep going. Go ahead. Okay, that's a big question. Well, if you're not going to rebuild, you'll probably, this is kind of a pet peeve of mine because in the old days, you should be able to go back and forth. You used to be able to get contractors to bid because, they wanted your business because you were the only house that was burned down, and now everybody's house is burned, so it's really hard. I think that people should be able to get their money out of their insurance company themselves. So I think if you keep at it this way, you might be able to do it. Some people, especially if your limits are a little low. If your limits are kind of low and you keep going back and forth, you might be able to hit your limits doing it this way. If not, you might have to pay somebody to do a scope for you. Oh, we have 5 of them here. We have 5 companies here that do that. So yeah, last one until the end, yeah.
I'm a retired general contractor. Can I do my own estimate?
You can. Good luck. So technically you should be able to. as long as your prices can be justified in the marketplace. A lot of adjusters get really, freaked out by that, and so. Anyway, so let's keep going. So the same thing applies, and we're going to do sort of an abbreviated thing tonight because we want you guys to be able to ask questions of our volunteers that are here, and then we're going to have them at tables, and you can meet with them and ask them questions and things like that. So it is possible, especially if your limits are low. If your limits are low, I'm going to tell you to try your hardest to do it yourself this way and to try to just keep going. Having people help you is great, but if you're already going to lose money on your house, you don't want to necessarily spend money to get the money that you're owed. So it's a problem. It's too bad that it has to happen. So go back and forth until you've reached an impasse.
Do they have a standard spreadsheet they use? Because when they sent ours, we had solid oak kitchen cabinets, so they put veneer cabinets.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. You just have to go correct it. So
And they didn't even put an oven in.
right, so that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about here. So a lot of people say, oh my God, they got it all wrong, and stop there. Okay, so you don't stop there. The point of this is to say, get your red pen out, get that scope, right? I had solid oak cabinets with solid plywood boxes, and then you forgot an oven. And here's the oven I had, so that right there is a perfect example of why this needs to be done. Because if they persist with their estimate in that way, there's no way to compare it with your contractor. There's no way to do anything because you're not comparing the same things. So it's super, super important before anything else gets done that you get that scope from the insurance company right and then deal with the pricing issues.
Should the scope be completely itemized the way you're showing it up?
Absolutely.
We're not seeing that. At least I'm not. I've got my scope right here and it's 5 pages.
Okay.
Right, so I want to pop in for a second. Here, pop in, not pass out. There are rules and regulations that the insurance company is supposed to give you all the necessary forms in order to process your claim. And certainly, if the scope they've given you doesn't allow you to really do what Sandy is walking you through, then you need to go back to them and say that unless you yourself are going to get your own scope and say, okay, well, since yours doesn't specify details, mine does, then
Yeah.
you should pay on mine. And so that again, there's these two handouts that we thought that you should grab. The other thing I want to mention is that in our online library on our website, we have a number of samples of scopes of loss, and we have we actually just added a number of new samples courtesy of one of our volunteers who's here tonight, and those will be up starting, they're already up there, but they'll be easier to find tomorrow, but there's plenty of forms that you'll find right now on our
Yeah.
website.
Are their estimates?
The scopes of loss.
Their
and
estimates,
scopes.
though? They have prices and everything?
There's both.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so if it's something like that, so you just got basically a trade breakdown?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, how did you get to this?
Right.
So that's one of the things, and you guys are entitled to your claim documents. You're entitled to have everything that they used to come to that document there. So to me, it's really hard. And I try to give them the benefit of the doubt, like with her question. I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. The house is gone. They've never seen it. They're doing a bunch of, so okay, they're going to go too fast. But that doesn't mean that they don't have to go back and make it correct. And then you should also be privy to how they got to that number that they gave to you.
That is a battle. I've been waiting that battle for 2 months.
They have 15 days.
Well, I've been waiting that battle. Their tool, RBT tool, they say it's proprietary and we don't get to see it.
Yeah. So proprietary, and a lot of insurance companies say work product, proprietary. If you read the code specifically says that you're entitled to any document upon which they rely to get. Yeah, we'll keep going.
Actually,
Yeah.
I have an answer for him.
Uh-huh.
He's talking to the IA. The IA cannot release that information.
Oh.
So you're not
Are you dealing with an independent adjuster?
No.
A company
I'm
adjuster?
dealing with Allstate, you bet.
Oh,
My
okay.
client, Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sandy, can you explain the difference between a scope and an estimate?
Yes, I did. Oh, okay, do it again. The scope is the one with the details without the pricing. The estimate is everything with the pricing. Is that good? Okay. Yeah, so yes, yeah, we can talk about that when you're done. Okay, so, wait, go back one more. I think I had one more thing. Okay, so, no. There, okay. So, this slide is for the purposes, well, and we'll do questions afterwards. We'll keep going. Is for purposes of the fact that even if you decide to relocate, you're going to still have to do the same exact process, okay? Unless they just pay you out your limits, you're going to have to do it all. So you need to reach an agreement with your insurance company before you start looking for houses or doing anything, and you need to be clear on the dollar amount that it would cost to rebuild your old house, plus code upgrades, okay? They might not pay you all of this up front, but you need to know how much is in your bucket so that when you can go shopping, you know what they're going to pay without any problem. Okay, code upgrades, general benefits, okay? Okay, so it's amazing to me. I still get people saying that their adjusters are telling them something different. This is California law as of September 21st, 2018. Okay, so this is the new insurance code. This is actually only clarification of the prior code. The prior code said something very similar, and the legislation says this is a clarification. You get to take all of those things to a different property. How many of you guys have been told something else? Yeah? I talk to people every single day whose adjuster says you don't get code upgrade if you don't build on the same.
Yeah.
Okay. It might say that in the policy, because some of the policies actually say that, but California law supersedes all of that. So it is wrong. I feel very, very strongly about this. And the amount that they pay is the replacement cost, including building code upgrade, any extended replacement coverage, and code upgrade. Okay, those are what you get. You get to take them no matter where you go. Okay. And so that is, if they tell you that, call me and we'll work on this, because there's still adjusters, even California adjusters, who are telling people the wrong thing, okay? So this is this. So that's why you need to know how much it would cost to rebuild your house so that you know how much you can go and spend somewhere else, okay? Okay? So this is just sort of how to get to that point. If you're going to relocate instead of rebuild, you're going to do almost exactly the same thing, except instead of hiring a contractor to build your house, you're going to take that money and go find another house to live in, okay? One of the things I want to say about that real quick is there's this whole land issue. So I just heard through the grapevine, and I don't know if it's accurate or not, that AAA has made a decision not to do that. Has anybody heard? Did you hear? What did they say? Yeah. Hi. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And the week I spoke to you, which was last week, AAA is no longer subtracting for land, and that came from our adjuster.
Let me just do a quick.
They know on code upgrades, but they are still, but they do deal with the land.
Let me just do a quick recap, just in case everybody isn't following this. So when you buy a replacement home instead of rebuild a replacement home, which is your right in California, no other state has that clear right. So a lot of the adjusters who are out there in the field don't know that, right? Because we're the only state that allows you to do this. You are allowed, just like Sandy just said, you're allowed to export to the purchase price all the coverage you would have had available to you to rebuild, okay? Including code upgrade, including extended replacement. As you could see in that code section there, though, it doesn't mention land. It shouldn't, because the land should be irrelevant. But some insurance companies have been taking the position that if rebuilding the old house exactly as it was in compliance with the current building codes, let's say would have cost, let's just say $400,000. Some insurance companies have said if you buy a house that costs $400,000, we're not gonna give you 400,000, we're gonna give you, let's say, 300,000, because we're gonna deduct the price of the value for the land under the house. This is a fight that's going on. It hasn't been litigated. It's gonna get litigated, but our feeling, United Policyholders feels very strongly about this. That if the policy doesn't say that they're gonna deduct the land, then they can't. And moreover, even if it did say it, it probably wouldn't be enforceable. So what this woman is sharing is that at least one insurance company has heard the arguments, has considered them, and has said, okay, we're not gonna deduct land value. That doesn't mean that your insurers, if you're not with AAA, you may have this fight. But if you do have this fight, we really do encourage you to go on our website, search in the box, put land value in the search box, see what you can find from us, and then fight back, because we think that you should win.
Yes, absolutely. And so I'm going to keep going because we're going to do questions right at the end. But one of the things that I suggest that you do is if you're going to buy instead of rebuild, and you've kind of got the agreement from your insurer how much is going to be your pot, go find a house. It doesn't matter if you want that house or not. Go find a house, get the spec sheets on it along the price line that you're thinking of buying in, and turn it into your adjuster and say, I'm thinking about this house. Tell me what you think. Okay? Because there's all sorts of really weird answers that come back. Let me tell you. They're going to say, oh, but this isn't like kind and quality. This is a different square footage. This is, a totally different style of house. A lot of these adjusters get hung up. There is language in the policy that says that they owe for like, kind, and quality. Yes. That's what you used when you got the estimate to rebuild your house exactly as how you lost it. There's your like, kind, and quality. It doesn't specify that when you go and rebuild it or go and buy a new one, that it has to be the same square footage. It can be smaller and nicer. It can be bigger and less nice. It can be, I just talked to a guy who moved to Ireland. Well, he has a huge house now because it costs less there. Real quick. You can do whatever you want. Let me just have a caveat on there. Say the initial payment for the actual cash value is, because they do not owe you extended coverage up front, and they do not owe you code up front. Okay, most of the policies say that in order to get that, you have to spend it, and then we'll reimburse you for it. Okay, some insurers, I think Farmers has taken the position, they're just shoving it out there, and you go. So, say for instance, your actual cash value payment is $300,000. Say you have another 100 in your extended coverage and another 50 in code upgrades. Okay, so they tell you you have $450,000 in your pot. Okay, well, say you go and you buy or whatever something that's $350,000. You're only going to get $50,000 more. You don't get more than what you spend in those areas. The only time that you would be entitled to keep the difference is if you spent less than the actual cash value of your home, less than that first payment. Does that make sense? So those extra buckets that say you have to spend it to get it, you have to spend it to get it, and they'll stop when you stop spending. So that's something to consider, because a lot of times you're leaving money on the table. So and it's the same idea with people who say, I'm done, I have another house to live in, I don't want to deal with this. I really encourage them to, you've got some time, you've got 36 months, is to take a deep breath, recover, and try to do it, because then, even if you have no intention of ever living there, you can sell it and move on, and you'll have that money. Otherwise, in that scenario, you leave another $100,000 on the table. So, yeah, and then we're going to keep going.
I have to take you back to the scope because I can't wait for my question. My adjuster tells me they don't use the scope. And
What do they use?
I don't know. He is probably the most difficult person that I've ever dealt with. I got the estimate. Well, I did get a copy of the estimate, and it's like $387,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's a question, and I want to stop because we're almost done with the presentation, so we'll do some questions at the end, and then I want to save time for you guys to get here. But that's something where you ask for a copy of your claim file, you talk to their supervisor, you need to know where they're getting the numbers.
At this point, he's been so awful that I copy his supervisor on every email.
You can ask for another adjuster.
I have, and they've not given me.
They have not given you, and they don't have to. They don't have to keep going. Okay, real quick.
If I understand you correctly, if I get $500,000 up front, go spend $250,000 on a house, I'm allowed to keep the remainder money or not?
Well, technically, it's the actual cash value. I think you are. There's differences in opinion in this. I think you are. It's the actual cash value of your home. So it's like, think about auto accident. If you have a 5-year-old car and you lose it, they pay you for a 5-year-old car, not a new one, right? And that's what you lost. So technically, if they paid you the actual cash value of your home, you can do that. And then you have to deal with the tax man. So that's a whole different issue. But insurance-wise, the actual cash value is the cash value of what you lost on that day. So they owe you that on that day, and it's sort of like a forced sale of your home. I mean, I would talk to a tax person because there's a lot of tax implications on that. It's the extended coverage. It's those replacement cost benefits that are extra. They make you... They technically make you more whole than you were when you lost the house. They're like extra things, so that's something. And I guess we might disagree on that, but...
No, if he's talking about the actual cash value payment, then you should be able to apply that to as you wish.
So we can't get in trouble then. That's what I'm being told. We can get in trouble if we spend any of the rebuild money other than rebuilding or buying another house, and that's just not true. The remainder money is taxable, but you can set aside for taxes.
It's like the forced sale of a house. So I would talk to a lawyer, personally.
Well, tomorrow we actually have a clinic.
Yeah.
Where we're going to have some volunteer lawyers, and all of our slots currently are filled. But I think if you wanted to talk to a lawyer.
Can I also just tell you, as an adjuster for so many years, once they pay you the money and close your claim, they're not going to go looking for you. They got plenty to do.
And just one more quick point in terms of leverage. If your adjuster is really being difficult and you're not getting anywhere with them, one source of free leverage for you is filing a request for assistance with the California Department of Insurance. You can do it, it's free, you don't need to be nervous that it's going to get you in trouble. It forces the insurance company to pay a little bit more attention at the higher levels because they have to respond to the state regulator that approves their rate filings. So again, if the adjuster is giving you a hard time, it's fine to file a request for assistance and say, I really need a more cooperative adjuster assigned to my file.
And they're fantastic.
The DOI is very helpful.
Yeah.
Pardon?
You could upgrade it, put solar on it.
Yeah, that's, you can do whatever you want. One more, and then we need to keep going.
Yes. Building costs now are certainly much higher than they were 6 months ago. In talking with the insurance company, how do we find a reasonable index?
You can't. The only method is the market, is the free market, and contractors, and what contractors are charging is the index. It is what, they use Exactware, which, supposedly does market surveys of pricing, but I don't feel that it's hugely reliable. A lot of times it has to be manipulated, but the only way to counter that is contractors' estimates. And it's going to change, it's going to be in flux, you're going to, but there's no like, price Bible that you can go and...
Does the market profile have any role?
What?
Market profile, so
No, it's rebuilding costs. No. No, and one of the things that's happening here is that, somebody said to me, well, it's going to cost $500,000 to rebuild my house, and then I can turn around and sell it for $350,000. That's just the way it is, in certain areas, that's just the way it is. So you've got to separate your mind from the sales, the market value of a house, and what we're dealing with here is the cost to rebuild it. And they're two totally separate things, it depends on where you are. Like my house, I live in San Francisco, so I have this little house that cost a bundle, but it would cost me, a third of what I paid for it if I had to rebuild it, because it's stupid, it's the way it is. So, and so other places, it costs way more to rebuild than you could sell it for. So they're not necessarily related. They should be, but they're not. So let's keep going. Lowballing, so this is just dealing with your insurer. One of the things that we've talked about tonight with people is that it really is their job to adjust the claim. And and on the handout, there's a code, there's an insurance code that says if an adjuster has an estimate that either they did or somebody they hired to do, okay, somebody they hire is the same as them. If they do an estimate and a policyholder turns in a higher estimate, they have there's three choices, but one of them's yours. The two choices the adjusters have is either to pay the difference, or reasonably adjust the claim. Okay, so you really need to pound on them that it's their job to sort this out. And it's changed so much over the last years in that I had an adjuster tell me the other day, well, it's not my job to do that. And it's like, yes, it is. And so they need to be sort of held accountable and said, look, you need to do a reasonable adjustment. You can't just reject my contractor's claims. And I've had adjusters say, well, we're not taking that. It's like, we have to. It's not an optional thing. So you need to make sure you keep their feet to the fire and ask them, why not? What's wrong here? The only thing that's really legitimate in a situation like that is if your contractor says, and I've seen it, remove and replace one house, $350,000. Okay? I've seen it, I guess you guys don't have to have them removed, but, they have to have something at least to work with, so at least your contractor, if they give a trade breakdown like this, that's enough, so hold their feet to the fire. So these are all the things that you can do. I like, and it's harder and harder, especially here because you guys are a little farther away, but I used to love meeting with the contractor and the policyholder and the adjuster, and you sit down at the table and you explain to, sit there and you tell me about everything so that I understand, how to adjust the scope, and the contractor says, well, this is going to be more because of this, this, and this, and then you can do this. If you can get your adjuster out here to meet with your contractor, that's a really good thing to do, and I recommend it, face-to-face meeting. Or you can hire an expert to prepare one for you. Okay, keep going. Okay. Lessons learned, take your time. Try to go through, I tell some people, if you find doing the scope overwhelming, just do one room for that day. This is the day I'm going to do the living room, and then when I recover from that, I'll do the bathroom, and then go like that. Take your time. If you can, if it makes sense, pay off your mortgage so that you don't have to deal with the mortgage company. As you guys all probably know, they're named on the checks. Make sure that's the best thing for you. Talk to your tax people. Make sure. I had somebody whose adjuster paid off the loan for them, and she didn't want her loan paid off because she had retired, and just a bunch. It's a mess. So you want to make sure. Document everything in writing. Okay. And this, I can't reiterate enough. I talked to some guy from Sonoma County the other day, and he's like, we've been going back and forth. And I said, tell me. I said, I've seen you at all the workshops. Tell me you have emails backing this up. And he's like, I don't. So do it. Put it in an email. If they tell you something like $560,000 or whatever, write an email to them immediately and say, thank you for talking to me today. I appreciate it. As you told me, estimates at $521,000. I look forward to receiving it. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Quick and easy. Anything they tell you that you're worried about, put it in an email, and it's there. Okay? So really important. If anything's rejected, delayed, and it's interesting, I'm seeing this everywhere. The adjuster will just send a little email to somebody and say, yeah, we don't pay for that. They'll say, the water filtration system is a big one right now. We don't pay for that. Okay? That's not how they're allowed to do it. They have to tell you what you're asking for, why it's not covered, show you the policy language or the statute, and then give you the Department of Insurance information. There's a whole format that's required if they deny one little thing. So if somebody tells you that they don't pay for that, and then push back. It's common to be denied. Keep going. It happens all the time. You get adjusters that don't know what's going on. So if you think it's wrong, seek some help, get an opinion, and keep working. Keep your claim moving forward. Try to reach the agreement. One of the things we still see people who are, it's like, okay, you're in a debate over your house, and I start asking them questions, and they're like, well, that's the house I'm going to build. So we're back to the same thing. You need to agree first. Okay, keep going on. This is just a little example. You're entitled to a summary of loss. Okay, especially if once they reach 3 adjusters, they're supposed to send you a written status letter outlining your claim when the 3rd adjuster comes on, or 4th adjuster, I can't remember. But ask them for a summary of loss, and then when you get it, make sure it adds up, okay? Because this one, it's hard to see, but it doesn't add up. So I'm like, okay, then send it back, because they should at the very least know how much they've paid you under each coverage. And I'm kind of shocked, because I've seen people send me stuff all the time, and I'm like, I'm like, well, they say we paid this much under coverage A, and I'm like, well, no, some of that's B. So just keep on top of it. You need to keep your own accounting system of everything as well. Okay, so this is on our website. This is uphelp.org/samples. We have sample letters. This is a really, really good one. This is requesting your claim-related documents, and it has the insurance code 2071, which is the code that gives you the right to do it. So that will help you if you want to get your claim documents. Okay, we have more things in our library. We have the PowerPoint is posted up there. Amy just posted it. We have all these different things on here, trade breakdowns and so forth. We have a lot. Have you guys all looked at our library? Okay. Go ahead. Okay, this is it. We have a survey open. We use these surveys, and I'll let Amy talk about the surveys a little bit.
So we have a survey open. It's won't take you more than 10 minutes. That's the link to it. How many of you got an email letting you know about tonight? Okay, so if you are not getting emails from us, please make sure you signed up with Maitreya on the list so that we can stay in touch, because in these emails we'll tell you we're going to be having an event, or and then we'll give you the link to the survey, and right there you can click on it. But if you can, I know this is a funky long link there, but I think so if you don't mind writing that down, we're going to make it easier. I'm pretty sure you can just, if you just type in uphelp.org/survey, it'll take you there. But please do take it, because we use that information to help you. We use it to figure out what topics you need us to cover in workshops. We use it to go to the state legislature and say, gosh, a lot of people are having problems with the insurance companies, not being willing to, explain how they've calculated their offer, that kind of thing. So it gives us ammunition to be an effective voice for you. So please take our survey. We're going to have it open through the end of April. So you've got time, but the bigger survey response we get, the better. And then if you have friends that have relocated out of the area, please let them know about uphelp.org and encourage them to email and sign up as well.
Okay, good. And then our next workshop is April 25th. It's here in the same room. If you want to send us an email, I don't know if we have a topic yet. We generally, we have a general progression that we go through, and then sometimes we tailor it based on what people are, each disaster is a little bit different on what people get stuck on and so forth like that. So if you want to send me a suggestion, I'm happy to do that.
Most likely, the next one will be a refresher on how things are supposed to be going, where things generally should be at the 6-month mark. And then just sort of a recap of your rights and best practices. But again, we're always interested in specific requests.
In specific, and one thing before we take some questions and let these guys introduce themselves is I do want to reiterate the idea of really call your adjuster up if you have a question, and like make them answer the question. Make them explain it to you until it makes sense to you. That's their job. So, I get a lot of people that said, well, they won't, and it's like, yeah, that's their job. They need to explain it to me how this works. How are you going to do this? Yeah.
Once you get agreed upon price, because my head always just goes back and forth when he starts saying, if I want to buy, then you have to do the like, kind,
No, you don't.
And I can't even get my head around it. That's why he does it, because I don't understand. All I can understand is, well, if I build, I get this amount.
No,
Yeah.
if you build or buy, you get the exact same amount.
Right.
Okay? As long as you spend the money, you get the exact same amount. You could buy an igloo.
Right.
Okay? It doesn't matter. As long as you spent that money on the igloo and you get your extended replacement coverage and your code.
Once we get that price, even though we say, I'm going to build, and you agree upon that price, you can't take it away from you, and then they can't be saying, like, kind of quality. No, that's the price.
That's the price. That is the price. And I've heard people, somebody from Sonoma County just called me a couple months ago and said, well, they're telling everybody that that the houses that we build, this was a builder, the houses that we build for them have to match the like, kind, and quality of the house that they lost. That's baloney. There is nothing in there that I showed you that says the amount of indemnity, the amount they owe you, okay, is like, kind, and quality of what you lost, but you can do whatever you want, just spend the money. So what we're going to do now, I'll take a couple quick questions, and then we're going to have the guys up here because they can answer more things too.
I have a couple quick questions. One is, that trade summary, is that the only page we have to present to get them, or do we have to have a whole bid thing with the trade summary?
Well, the more detail you can get, the better. So whatever detail you can get from your contractor, the better. But if the trade summary is the minimum.
Okay, and then the code upgrades. If you replace and buy a new house, are you entitled to the code upgrades to rebuild your house?
Okay, so on the code upgrade, so her question was about code upgrade coverage. You get to take that to your new house. The amount is based on what it would be to bring your old house up to code. So if you had a house like built in the 60s and they say it's going to be $60,000 to bring it up to code, to rebuild it to today's standard, and it's a good idea to have the code bid separate, it makes it easier. And if they say $60,000 to bring your old house up to code, well then you can take that $60,000 and put it into your bucket that buys you a new house.
On top of your extended replacement?
Yes. Yes, and it's the number one thing. Right, so just to reiterate what he's saying, AAA does not have code upgrade coverage. In most cases, that's an additional amount. Most policies will say, we'll give you another 10, 20, 30% in code upgrade coverage. AAA's is inside your coverage A coverage. So
if you get an estimate, if you get to the point you go past scope, you get the estimate, the number there includes the code upgrade?
It just depends on what's in the estimate, but it can be in it, but your policy limit is all one.
So whatever the 150% of A would be,
Right.
That's it.
That's it. You don't put AAA doesn't, and I think you can. There's a few I've seen that you can endorse it on top, but it's very rare at AAA. And then we'll keep going here.
Yeah, AAA is down to that new favorite word is called an incurred cost. So when we got our estimate, they did not have anything for engineering, for architect, for permits in the estimate. When we asked about that, they said, no, that's not any money that you're owed. That would be an incurred cost. So how does one?
There's arguments. Things like code and the extended coverage, it says incurred. So you have to spend it to get it. There's arguments both sides of the architecture, permits, and so forth. You can easily argue that it's part of the cost to rebuild your home, so it should be paid. The other side of the coin is it's not actually actual cash value, so you can go either way on that. I would say that if you're going to relocate and you need that money in your bucket, you should really fight for it. Should really fight for it, yeah. Just a couple more, because I want to get the guys up here. You haven't asked one yet.
If you had an adjuster that your house was built in 1950, but it was really built in 89, would the code upgrades be higher?
Yeah.
Would it be in 1950?
But where did he put the 1950? Was it your agent, you mean?
No, the adjuster.
The adjuster put it where?
On my 150 pages of stuff he gave me, he said it was built in 1950. But it was really built in 89, so I'm wondering
You would
if
have-
the code upgrades that he credited me for would be higher than
Probably.
50.
Yeah, there's more codes that were enforced in those
Maybe it
30
was doing me
years.
a favor.
You might be, I wouldn't read it. Okay, you, and then we're gonna stop and go.
Question to kind of go along with something the gentleman asked earlier. Based on the scope of this loss, so many things were lost, everything that needs to be rebuilt. That means the market price of everything is going to go up exponentially also. In my opinion, I think it's going to be a minimum of $300 a square foot to build a house. When an average house is 180 to 220, I would say, by what I've looked at.
They owe you for the cost that it costs to rebuild a house now. that you're doing.
How are we going to find that out when it doesn't happen for another 2 years?
Yeah.
Um,
In a year or 2 years, or when is that point?
Yeah, you have to, you want to nail it down as soon as possible so that you have your amounts.
But it could be really higher than
Yeah.
that, so.
It could. Well, then the other thing is if you do rebuild your house and it costs more because of the VAT, not because you've changed anything, then you can make the claim at that time. If it's within the 36 months after the ACV, you can go ahead and make your claim for that. You might have to defend upgrades, back out any upgrades. It makes it a little bit complicated. But technically, if you rebuild the same house, if you rebuilt the house identically and you incur that cost, technically they have to pay you when you're done. It's a little bit of a game of chicken because a lot of people aren't comfortable doing something like that, but technically they would owe you that at the end. What you actually paid.
Extended replacement cost.
Yes.
Right. Up to your policy
Yeah.
limit.
So what I want to do, I don't want to cut you guys off, but what I want to do is I want to introduce our guests, our volunteers that are here, and you can ask them, you can keep asking them questions. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask them to come up. They're going to give 3 minutes. Each of them gets 3 minutes to introduce themselves and what they do, because there's 5 of them. And then afterwards, we're going to do some questions for a little bit, and then they're going to sit at their tables, and you can talk to whoever you want to talk to. You can talk to Amy or I, and we're going to go from there. So, thank you.
Okay, so that was all very good information, and I will tell you that the fact that we have 5 different professionals here that are available to, obviously for hire, they're not free, but that are here in this community ready and willing to do estimates is very unusual, and it's because your loss happened kind of on the heels of the fires in Sonoma and Napa, so that a lot of them have been working down there. And normally it can be very, very hard actually to find people who do this kind of work. So again, we're not saying, oh, you gotta, get your checkbooks out and hire these guys tomorrow. But the point is that we brought them here because of everything you've been hearing about, that getting somebody who can actually map this all out for you can be extremely useful. So that's why we set this up the way it is. So the first person that's going to give a little introduction is Matt Everson, and he is based in Santa Rosa. Matt, I'm going to let you talk about what is this business that you're in?
I don't know. Amy told me about this business. I'm from Santa Rosa. My business partner, Bill, he's a general contractor. And I was at a meeting just like this about a year ago or more, and the crowd, and Amy said, all you gotta do is find a builder, they'll give you an estimate. And the crowd got angry at her.
Right.
And after I asked her, well, what is the scope of loss? Why do people get upset? And she told me that the insurance companies kind of know that you're gonna have a hard time finding it, getting it for a decent price, And you just, so I went out around town looking for a contractor, and I thought I'd have to find a software guy, but Bill actually knows the exact thing. So the two of us together made a pretty good team, and we've brought about $35 million to people in Santa Rosa over the last year. So money that initially the insurance companies were just not willing to release. So it's a fun business. It's very satisfying. I'm a former certified financial planner, and financial planning just never ends. It's always going on. And when the settlement ends and people get their money, they're really, really excited, as you can all imagine. And so it's much more fulfilling than being a financial planner. So look forward to answering your questions right up here.
All right, great. Well, since he didn't use his 3 minutes, I'm going to throw something in there. The reason that it can be very hard to do this without hiring somebody to do the scope is that, as Sandy was mentioning, and as you all know, good help is hard to find. There's so much demand that builders are busy building. And it's very hard to find somebody who will say, okay, I'm going to do all this paperwork in detail for you. So that's really what we're talking about here, is sort of a different category of professional that can help with this. Our next volunteer is Lynn Pham, also from Santa Rosa, or at least has been working there. So Lynn, thanks for being with us. Thanks, Lynn.
Hi guys, I'm Lynn, and my background is I was an adjuster for 14 years before I went to construction building. For the past 14 years, I've been a builder, so I get both sides, and I was Xactimate trained. I come from that industry, and so that gives me the background to do what we do. And so I just want to let you guys know, I've been doing this in Santa Rosa, and I just want to give you guys hope. You can do this, and you can do this yourself, okay? So I'll make it real simple. If you're close to your policy limits, go through the scope yourself. You can do this. Work with your adjuster and get yourself there. But if you're 100,000 under or more, you're going to need some help, okay? We know what to look for. We know how to help. A couple of you asked about the cost of construction. It's called the demand surge, guys, and it has happened. And I've seen it happen, and I can document it. And we've been doing that with the insurance company. Xactimate, the program itself that the insurance company uses, does it because they do their own price upgrades every month. It's a monthly list that they upgrade the pricing for. So it is quantifiable. Your problem is that you're having a dearth of contractors that can't give this to you. Well, we can do it with Xactimate. And so it is quantifiable. And the key is make sure your adjuster updates their price list. A lot of them get lazy and they stay with the price list on the date of loss. Well, guess what? The market's changed in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and Xactimate accounts for that. So demand it of them. Work with your adjusters first. We cost money. We do a lot of work for what we get paid for, but you can do this yourself, okay? So every situation is different, and we're happy to talk to you guys about all of that. The other thing is know your limits, guys. That's what I'm talking about. When you understand your limits, then you know how close you are. If you are close, I'll tell you this, Xactimate is bringing in tract homes in Santa Rosa at $350 a square foot on average. When you're talking about semi-custom and custom homes, I'm $450 to $650 a square foot. That's Xactimate, okay? When in the right hands, we can use it to your benefit. We just don't miss details, and neither should you. You can do this, okay? Last point, whether you build or replace your home by purchasing, you have to start with the scope. You have to get an agreement with the insurance company first. Get that cost down to where you're agreed. Then show your cards. Then talk to the adjuster. Okay, now I'm going to replace. And you can be upfront with them, or you can just tell them, I don't know. I can't find a builder yet. But first, I have to understand what my policy is worth and what you're willing to pay me before I can make those decisions, right? Scope. Start with the scope. You guys can do this.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for the positivity. Okay, and next I want to bring up Kelly Konzelman. And just like most of these gentlemen, he has a background in the construction industry and has been doing this kind of estimating, I think, for a while. Kelly, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kelly Konzelman. I'm here with my partner Hector Viscara, which is standing in the back. I have been an insurance restoration contractor for 38 years. I started my first company with my dad, who was a painter, and my grandfather was an architect. I was a carpenter, and we started a little business. We turned that into a big business. I sold the business in 1992, swearing I'd never, ever do insurance work ever again. When we sold our business, we had, in 11 years, we had done over 6,000 claims in that period of time. The reason why, because we were working directly for the insurance companies. We were their vendor of choice. When you had a fire in your house or you had a flood, they called us out. We came to your house. We wrote up an estimate. We worked with the adjuster. We worked out the scope of loss. And we came back and rebuilt your house. And we did that over and over and over again for many, many years. The insurance industry has changed considerably since those times. And it is much, much more difficult for contractors and for insurance companies to work together. There's vast differences in scope. There's a tremendous difference in acumen between adjusters and the builders who are providing the estimates. I think one of the things that we do really, really well is write scope of work that accurately reflect exactly how your house was built on the day of the fire. It's the most important thing that you can do. Getting that document, that scope of loss, is what your entire claim settlement is going to be based upon. It is a very, very important document, and it has to be accurate, and it has to be defendable by the person writing that estimate. We have an advantage. We are also general contractors and builders, so when I write up an estimate, I'm not writing it up as an adjuster. I'm writing it up as a builder with 38 years experience building houses. So I can speak with authority, and I can defend my estimates, and I can go toe-to-toe with an adjuster and say, no, I'm sorry, you're wrong. That's not the correct way to do it, or that's not the correct cost. So I love the fact that we're working with Amy and her group. Fantastic consumer advocacy group here. You're in very good hands with Amy. I look forward to talking to all of you. We do offer consultations at no charge for anyone who would like to talk about their claim, what their process is for recovery, what the steps are, and I'd be happy to do that at any time. Thank you.
You guys are pretty timely there with your 3 minutes. I'm impressed. Okay, and Kelly is one of those who's donated some samples to our library, and we appreciate that. I want to explain, Corey, come on up. Corey Averill is one of the first people that I saw prepare a scope that made a lot of sense to me, and I thought that it was like a 3-ring binder. You know, I think some of you may be wondering, well, what does the scope look like? Is it like a little, you know, is it just an exact weight estimate, or does it have pictures, or does it have plans? So Corey, thank you for being with us, and if you can shed some light, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you. Corey Averill, I'm from Lake Arrowhead, California. Lake Arrowhead is much like Paradise, same trees, same everything. So we've had a lot of fires there. I was born and raised there. So in January I decided to move up. So got in the motorhome, and that's how you move to Paradise, right? So we're in the motorhome between parks, and we are also staying at somebody's lot where I'll be rebuilding their house. But I'm up here full time. So the way I approach this is, and by the way, I've been building since I was a kid, general contractor for lots of decades. So the way I approach this is I, first of all, measure your foundation. You see these guys with the wheels out there measuring your foundation, and they're never accurate. So I would give you a measurement, an actual measurement on a CAD program. Probably would do that in Xactimate. Second thing I would do is give you a general builder's estimate. It's just maybe 60 line items. And then as Sandy said, they have to respond to that. That'll bring it up a little bit. If that doesn't work, then we go to a real builder's estimate, which is about 200 line items. And what I've done is I've taken Xactimate prices and put it to my builder's estimate. So they can't argue the prices, they came from Xactimate, and that's, of course, Xactimate is what they're using. So now I start charging. Okay, the first two things are free. Now I have to charge $495 for that estimate. And then if that doesn't work, then we go to the scope. But it just, we kind of build on it to see what we can do. If you've got patience, if you don't mind, writing the letters that Amy has on the website, then yourself, then that's, that's what I'll help you do. I put you on a schedule so that you write those letters in a timely manner and kind of guide you through the whole process. Okay?
Great.
And how many do I have extra time?
You have another minute.
Okay. Okay. Well, to give a little hope too, I live in a burned area. It was 15 years ago that our area got burned, where I currently live, and you can't tell anymore. At 5 years, it was pretty much recovered, and now you just can't tell at all. So it's going to be beautiful. It really is. So I really encourage you to do what you need to if you need to move or whatever, but build Paradise back. I love it up there. And thank you, Amy, for all that you do for everybody.
Oh, hey, it's good to be useful in life, right? So thank you, Corey. And again, there isn't one format for a scope. A scope can be a 3-ring binder. I've seen spiral-bound scopes, where somebody's got a whole combo of, an Xactimate estimate and photos, etc. And just one note about Xactimate before I bring up the fifth expert here. So Xactimate, or Xactware, the software that produces an Xactimate estimate, it's not that it is a flawed tool. It is that it's just like any other software, garbage in, garbage out. If you have not, you have to know how to manually override the default settings. You have to know how to use it. If you don't take the time to get accurate pricing in there, then it's going to skew low, and that is the biggest problem. So some of these people, if you were to hire them, they would probably give you an Xactimate estimate, and it would look just like that, but it would be one that had been properly input. And again, so it's just not that the tool in itself is bad. I really encourage you all to chat with these gentlemen that have made the trip here, and ask them questions and really give it some thought, because we wouldn't have brought them all here for you if we didn't think that if we hadn't seen, like what Matt said, that their work can really translate into a lot more dollars added to your claim than what they're going to charge you. And some of you, have any of you guys hired public adjusters? Okay. So, a public adjuster will also say that they're going to do this service for you and it be included in their fee, but of course, their fee is on your total claim. So these guys mostly, they're just going to do this one piece. So that's what makes them very different from a public adjuster. So Thomas Kessler is here, and I love to say the name of his town where he's from, Copperopolis. So it rolls off the tongue. Tom, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. My name is Tom Custer from Copperopolis, California, and if you don't know where that is, a lot of people don't. It's just before the town of Angels Camp, where they jump frogs. And I love living up there. I live in a high-risk fire area, and it's very difficult to get homeowners insurance up there as it is up here. First of all, I want to say I'm very sorry. I am very sorry for your loss. And it's not just that. I am very sorry for how you're being treated, how you're being handled, how you're being marginalized, how many of you are being ignored. It shouldn't be that way. I've been in this industry for 41 years. I started out as a general contractor, and in 1990 through 93, I worked as a property loss adjuster during the Oakland Hills fire, helped a lot of homeowners. Back then, insurance companies were very user-friendly and they were very consumer-oriented. Now, they're more concerned about shareholders than they are policyholders. They're more concerned about their investors than you. And that's just unfortunate. But that's the time in which we live. I'm a forensic estimator. That is, I estimate large losses in homes from nothing. There's no plans. Sometimes there's no photographs. So I have to take a forensic approach. I have to interview. I have to investigate. I have to research to put together a total loss estimate. I've been doing this for a long time, and a lot of the battles are not so much the stated limits, they're the extended limits. Insurance companies can't get away from paying you the stated limits. That is, the coverage A declared limit on your policy. It's when you have an extended limits coverage that they're really fighting. That's where a lot of my battles are, is going beyond stated limits to extended limits. And they fight very difficultly on those things. Also, code upgrade. Ordinance and law or code upgrade is another big battle that we face with insurance companies. I work with a lot of different general contractors that don't use Xactimate, and they need an Xactimate estimate, so I provide that service to them. Probably half of my client base are homeowners like you. I work with attorneys to settle claims. I work in litigated cases as an expert witness. And then there's another section in your policy that wasn't discussed tonight, and that's your right to a policy appraisal. And a policy appraisal is when you reach an impasse, a disagreement with your insurance company, and they won't budge. Your policy states that you have a right to invoke an appraisal, which forces the carrier it's compulsory. So if you invoke appraisal, they have to appoint an appraiser, you appoint an appraiser, and the two individual appraisers appoint an umpire. And then it takes the adjusting of your claim away from the insurance carrier and away from the adjuster, and it puts it in the hands of three professionals their sole responsibility is to value your loss based on current market conditions and the locality. So that's always available, and that's very important for you to know that. So I just want to thank you for coming here, and I appreciate your interest in getting these questions answered. It's very important that you understand your policy, understand your rights, and know how to read the insurance company's offers. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so again, this is an informational opportunity. You are not in under any obligation. This is for you to get more information so you can make good decisions. We also have put some signs around the room, and at the end, if you are looking to connect with some of your neighbors who may be insured with the same company as you, so you can stay in touch with each other, you can just go over to one of the signs that is your company and hang out. And if somebody else comes over, we encourage you to exchange information. So I want to thank Chico State, Professor Badami, Dan, our videographer, our very generous volunteers that made pretty long drives to be here. So please do take advantage of their expertise, and thank you again so much.
Thank you.